Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Megan Bryant, and I am the Chemistry Club President at the USCL. This is our third Careers in Science lecture of the semester, and I am happy to introduce our speaker, Dr. Andrew Besmer. Dr. Besmer is an Associate's Professor of Computer Science at Winthrop University. He received his PhD in Computer Science from UNC Charlotte and was the recipient of the 2018 Outstanding Junior Professor Award at Winthrop. Good job, that's great. Today, Dr. Besmer will be speaking about cybersecurity. Please join me with your reactions in welcoming today's speaker.
Thank you, Megan. So I want to talk today a little bit about the careers in cybersecurity, because that's what I was told y'all were interested in. And there's so many careers I could talk about. I mean, I could go through and say, we could talk about auditors or analysts or, all that kind of stuff. But I figured instead I would focus in on two different careers and weave that into sort of a story that's a real story that actually happened, so that it stays nice and engaging. I hope you'll agree with me that by giving you two specific careers instead of covering, a plethora of them, that this is a better talk for you. So there's lots of different careers that you can choose from. All of them wind up really dealing with protecting data from being compromised from the CIA perspective. And insert every single security professor's joke about CIA. We're not talking about the CIA organization. We're talking about the three security objectives: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And so really all the roles that deal with cybersecurity, they're all about helping protect, the confidentiality of the data and the systems that we have, the integrity of those same systems and data, and the availability, because we can make things highly protective, we can make things highly secure from a read and write point of view, but then if the only way you can do that is through an extremely long delay in terms of availability, then it's not really serving the purposes that we have either. And then you also have availability itself as a security objective. So all of the careers pretty much deal with that. It's just from what perspective they sort of deal with that. So I'll be sort of telling you about two of those. Many different types of organizations you can work for. It's not just a single, this is who hires security people. Pretty much everybody now today is going to be interested in being able to find a security person. That means, large tech companies, your Googles, Amazons, and so forth. Banks need cybersecurity professionals. Critical infrastructure, the people who do natural gas pipelines and the like, all need cybersecurity professionals. We even seen instances of the different supply chains needing those same things to keep things moving, keep product moving through the supply chain so that everybody can get what they need to build what they need or consume what they need on time. And then of course governments of all types: regional governments, local governments, state governments, you name it, they all need cybersecurity professionals. And I think that's probably never been more obvious than it has been recently. So my story, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the 2013 bank heist, which was one of the most successful bank heists in history. If you go look at number of dollars stolen, 45 million. I mean, this is 45 million in cash, right? I mean, you think about a $45 million in cash theft from a bank, you start to wonder, well, how'd they do it, right? I mean, was it something where they were rappelling upside down inside of a temperature sensitive vault and they had to catch the sweat as they were dripping? Is it an elaborate armored car heist, or maybe they did the old switch the armored trucks, and so as they were driving down the road they peel the side off? It was actually nothing like that. It was fairly uneventful. It was digitally done, and they got the cash out of it, and I'm going to kind of walk you through that. But in order to first get to that digital version of cash, you need to break into a system. And so that really brings me to my first job, which is that of a pen tester or a red teamer. So attackers, they need to get access to the systems before they can actually, try to, pull something like this off and have these these amounts withdrawn from ATMs and things like that. They need to get access to the system first, and so that's really the job of a pen tester or red teamer, is to understand what are the mechanisms and routes by which we're still able to get access to systems. So they go and they try to discover that. You can think of these people as being like the good hackers. They're contracted by the company. They're doing what they should be doing, which is trying to break into a system, but they're doing it legally, and they're doing it, with the permission of the company that needs the help. They do use tools, though, that are similar to real hackers. So the tools that I'm going to show you are all tools that real hackers might use, but they're also tools that are in sort of a pen tester's toolkit, so that they could get in. So I do have some interactive questions during this, and if you would oblige me, I'm going to open my chat screen here. If you would oblige me by answering in the chat, so that we don't have a bunch of crosstalk going on, that would be fantastic. So first question I have for you is, what do y'all think that is? What's that look like? Yes, a USB cable. You would be correct. You would probably not even second guess this being connected to a computer, and my guess is most of you wouldn't even hesitate for even a moment if you saw one of these things laying around and you had a low battery, to plug this thing in and try to charge up your cell phone. Unfortunately, that's not what it is. So this is a device that's called O.MG. It's a clever play on an acronym, as well as the pseudonym of the person who made it. And it's really a cable that can perform attacks. So this cable, when you plug it into a computer, even if there's not a device on the other end of it, just the cable alone is able to emulate and send off attacks to the computer. So a lot of these are low-level attacks. They're like keyboard injection attacks, things like that. But they can be remotely triggerable. You can even have it wait for certain conditions to be met and do it. And same way as you can do that to the computer, you can do it to the device that connects on the other end. So if you plugged in your cell phone to that other end, it can send commands down the wire to the cell phone. Similarly, you've got the ability for it to sort of do like man-in-the-middle attacks. So if I connect my phone up to, for example, my computer here, I might want to transfer, pictures or information. I'm sorry. I might want to transfer pictures or information or things like that into my computer. And as I do that, that information is running along that cable. And that cable, since it is a malicious cable, the cable can actually intercept and change the data that's being sent. So you might have transferred a file that has a bunch of IDs of people who should be able to get into system, and the wire is actually able to actively change those things in transit because it's in the middle of the connection. We really haven't adopted great cryptographic standards for data communication from the device to the machine. So a cable like this, not good. And there's very few ways to tell that the cable is actually a malicious cable like this. Here's another one. This one, if I asked y'all what it was, you'd all tell me it's a USB flash drive. And this thing looks exactly like a USB flash drive. It actually doesn't come branded like it is there. It comes just like a regular flash drive. It looks exactly like a regular flash drive. And with this kind of thing, you almost consider these things sometimes to be consumable, right? One of the attack vectors that you might use is to go and leave these things someplace. And people try to be helpful, right? They try to, could you figure out if I plug this into my computer, whose flash drive it was, and return to them their English paper or something like that, right? Unfortunately, when you plug this into your computer, what it really starts to do is, perform attacks. So I've had students before in my cybersecurity class that turned this thing into a delivery mechanism for ransomware. So you plug it into the computer and immediately it starts encrypting all your files and protecting it, and it sends the security key up to a web server. And then they tell you, oh, now it looks like you're going to have to go ahead and pay us money for being able to get your files back. So looks like a flash drive, not at all a flash drive. Here's another one. This one's called a Wi-Fi pineapple. All these things have cute names, by the way. They all have interesting little names that go along with them. This one's called a Wi-Fi pineapple, and it can do all sorts of different attacks. Probably some of the more common ones for this one would be to set up rogue or malicious access points. So you may have heard the advice, like, as you go to a hotel or any kind of conference or something like that, to be wary of connecting to the unsecured connections that are there and things like that. But the truth is, really, I mean, you don't know secured, unsecured, passwords there or not. You don't know who's controlling that access point, right? At the end of the day, it could be an attacker who's just set up a guest network that has the same name as the one that's there in the facility, or it could be the actual facility itself. You really don't know. And in addition to connecting to the wrong one, now they have 100% of the data that you're sending. And so you better hope that the data that you are sending is encrypted as it's going across that channel, or else they'll be able to intercept it, read it, and also, again, man in the middle it, where you change the data that appears to be coming from the actual source site itself. So this is a bad device. It can also do things like forcibly cause people to disconnect from networks and try to phish credentials and things like that. And this is why so many organizations say that, if you're going to be on a laptop or, traveling or anything, that you need to conduct all your business through a VPN, because that sort of tries to help mitigate at least some of the things that this thing can do by making sure that 100% of your traffic is at least encrypted from point A where you're at to at least the VPN's endpoint, wherever it's at. Here's another one. This one's called the land turtle. And the land turtle basically sits there and it looks just like a regular Ethernet adapter. As a matter of fact, it looks suspiciously like a regular Ethernet adapter. Your IT organization wouldn't have any reason to suspect it was anything like a malicious tool. But if this is there and it is this malicious tool, this thing can help make it so that you can connect in from the outside by going through an intermediary. So what this device does is you plug it into a laptop or a desktop or whatever it is that needs a network connection. You plug the network connection in, and then it makes an external connection out, or at least one of the things it can do, makes an external connection out to a server, and it just kind of sits there waiting for input. And so the attacker later on would come in, they'd go to their external server, and then now they have basically a device that's sitting on the network right there, and they can conduct attacks while they're not physically actually present. And the attacks are originating from inside the perimeter of your network. So it's not a good device to wind up having have infiltrated your network. This one's called the Bash Bunny, and it doesn't look harmless. It looks weird, and it looks weird because it's not really meant to be used. Well, I'm sure there's other reasons it looks weird, probably practicality, but it's not really meant to be used like through leaving these things out on a table or something like that, but really more through status. So if you take a look, you see there's like I don't know if you can see my mouse, but there's this little status light that's right there. And this little status light right there, what it's doing is it's telling you what stage of the attack that you've programmed into this thing it's currently at. So if you do wind up, for example, getting into a server room or something like that, and you're able to physically plug a device up to a machine, which is really bad for your security if an attacker is able to actually physically touch a server. If you're able to do that, you can plug this thing in and you could be watching the status lights. And so it might start out like red and it's blinking red, which means the attack hasn't started. Then it goes to blue, the attack is running, and then solid green, that means the attack is finished. You can unplug it and get out of there. So that's what this device is all about. And it's got, if you also take a look, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but that selectable button at the top, it actually is movable so that you can select which attack you want to run. So you could have this like ready to attack different types of machines and different types of systems and things like that, so that if you happen to come across one, and you don't have to be like, oh, but I brought the other attack. Well, you have them all. You just select which one you want on the side and then plug it in. So that's what that one does. This one is called a packet squirrel. This one you would plug in between a network connection. So like you would basically like unplug somebody's network connection, plug this thing in, and then plug it back in line. So it just sits like in the middle of two different devices that are communicating over an Ethernet wire. And what it does is literally log 100% of the traffic that goes across that wire. So, you know, even if you have done, things to stop people from getting into like, you know, server rooms or being able to plug into actual jacks so that they can't do those types of attacks, you know, it may be possible to actually intercept a specific machine. And this device would really help you be able to do that. And again, the selectable side there indicates like, you know, how much logging and things like that you would actually want to do. This one's called a key crock. So it is a key logger. You ingeniously put this in between a keyboard, a user's keyboard. So I'm actually sitting at my desk and I have a regular keyboard. And you'd put this at the end of my keyboard, right where the USB plugs into my computer. You would plug it in there, and then you plug the end of that tail, which is right there. You plug that into the actual computer, and from the computer's perspective, everything's normal, right? There's a keyboard input, it goes to the keyboard, everything's looking great. Unfortunately, what it's really doing is it's actually recording every keyboard input. So as I type my password, as I type the websites I'm going, as I type the emails that I'm writing, things like that, even though those might be highly secured systems, keyboard input is just letters that went out my keyboard and into a computer. And so, you know, all that data is now visible. They can see, and you know, they have it recorded. So that's what that one does. This next one is called a screen crab, and this is going to be the last one we talk about. And this screen crab, what you do is you actually put it behind like conference room monitors, things like that. So you notice there's a HDMI port right there. Basically what you're doing is you're feeding the signal that would go into the, you know, conference room monitor into that thing, or maybe it's a projector or something like that, anything really that has an HDMI. And you're recording that signal. So as people are doing presentations about what's going on at the company, as people are doing meetings where they're setting strategy and things like that, you're actually recording that. And there's enough storage on this thing where depending on how you record, you could record it for up to a year and actually come back later and then unplug it and then get like, you know, the last year's worth of conference room meetings. Or you could even have it record where you're actually getting it in real time over the internet wirelessly. So it is a very bad device to wind up having infiltrate your organization. So now the attackers found a way in. Right, back to the story. Now the attackers found a way in. They've managed to discover some route, some entry. Maybe they used one of these tools. Maybe they use a software vulnerability, whatever it is. Pen testers do a whole lot more, but we have limited time. The pen testers will take all their results and they turn them over to the company and they say, okay, well, here's what I found. Here's the different ways that we were able to get in. Here's the different vulnerabilities that we saw. And then the companies can go and they can turn around and try to build mitigation measures, design recovery plans, and things like that. However, if this were the actual attacker, if this was the group that was stealing that 45 million, now they have their way in, right? And money, in terms of what they're interested in, is just numbers in a database, right? There's an entry somewhere in the database for this bank, and it says this debit card has this amount of money. And so if you have the ability to write to this database, which they were able to, then you just change that amount of money to be a lot of money. And you make lots and lots of cards with lots and lots of money. So they plan to basically attack the banks by using ATMs to withdraw the cash. So they inserted into the database a bunch of cards that had a bunch of balances, and then they wanted to fabricate those cards in order to go to an ATM, put the card into the ATM, type in the PIN number, and then withdraw the cash out. So there's no elaborate switching of armored cars or anything like that. It's just literally walking up to an ATM and taking the money out with the card. But there's a problem, and that's, well, who is going to manufacture these cards? What deep web illicit market do I need to visit in order to be able to manufacture these cards that will go into debit machines? Well, turns out you could buy them on Amazon. I actually have one of these things. Magnetic card readers are not highly secure. Since this attack took place, you'll notice on your cards there's now an actual chip that's on the front of the card. I have my own opinions about whether that would actually have mitigated this type of attack, but that's been added since. But this is you could go buy this today. Like this is on there, and they just program those cards with the debit card numbers that they wanted to withdraw money from, and then take the money out of the account. So not hard to come across. This is just Amazon. So they went to the ATMs and they emptied them out. I mean, 45 million in a day. I mean, it's stuff that is hard to fathom that they could get that much money, but every ATM was just out of money. I mean, if they came across an ATM, gone, money is gone. Now we've all seen lots of movies, and movies tell us, the things that we should not be doing if we were thieves. So if you would tell me what kind of things have you heard that you shouldn't be doing if you're a thief at this point? And you have this cash. Do it in the chat there for me real quick. And while I do that, Betty, that's an interesting question. It was actually the people who cleaned out the ATMs were organized street level criminals. The actual hacker themselves actually sold those card numbers to the street level criminals at a discount. So they said, I've got these guaranteed to work cards, you give me a percentage of it and you can have the card numbers. All right, so you should not spend your cash immediately. So absolutely, rule number one, right? Don't go around flashing the money. Well, some of these folks who did it, they went to a car dealership and they said, hey, see that $100,000 car? I'm gonna buy it, and I'm gonna buy it in cash. Here's a bag of money, boom. Now, I don't know how people who buy $100,000 cars actually buy $100,000 cars, but my guess is it's not with a bag of money that's still that's wrapped in rubber band. That'd be my guess, just an educated one. But they did that, so some of those got caught that way. You shouldn't deposit it. Absolutely. Anything else? There's an easy one here. All right, not seeing anything else. Don't talk about it, right? Don't talk about it. Like, first rule of Fight Club, that says don't talk about Fight Club. Well, unfortunately, and I want to emphasize, this is a real picture that was tweeted out. This is what they did. So some of them got caught because they went and they posted the information. Hey, we just got a bunch of money. And of course, 45 million gets cleaned out. They start looking for who's got a lot of cash. Well, it's not hard if you post the picture on Twitter. So these two got caught. Now, that brings me to my second job, and that is the job of a digital forensic analyst. So one of these folks has gotten caught, right? We uncovered one person who stole some of this money from the ATM. And that leads us to, well, what do we do with the rest of the crime? How far does it go? How many people are involved? That sort of thing. And that's what the digital forensic analyst is really going to try to do. They're going to try to start to look for evidence to uncover the extent of this crime, the means, the methods, the opportunities that were taken, any co-conspirators that they worked with, and so on. So some of the things that they're going to use, if you take a look at what we have right here, this is a forensic analysis software. So the software that is here is used basically to analyze dumps that come from digital devices. And they look for pre-known files that are in there, files that are, with certain extensions. They look particularly for deleted files, right? So if you think about text messages, or you think about your Word documents or your chat logs or any of that kind of stuff that might be on a computer, your search history on a computer, Many people think that those things, when they delete them, that they're gone. They're actually not gone. It's really, really hard to destroy that data. It's usually still there, and it's usually still there for quite some time. So these forensic analysts, they go in and they start to try to uncover that, right? What files did they delete? What was their search history? Who did they communicate with? And even if they deleted those messages, attempt to recover them. And you've seen probably trials that were, that have been made famous through digital recovery and things like that, where, they're not able to actually piece together the full picture, but like you get parts of the picture and it tells, part of the story about what has happened and what might be occurring in the imagery there or in the file there, or segments of it, things like that. So they use pieces of software like this to sort of analyze it and find out what's going on in there. They might make use of these mobile device forensics kits. So these kits are really important because you take these out into the field. Typically the forensic person won't be the person to go first through the door. That would be regular law enforcement. They would go through the door, they would secure the scene, and then the forensic analyst would go in after them. And they need to take and recover the digital devices. So a lot of people don't really realize that, mobile devices, they are, as you have them, mine's right here, is you have it turned on and powered on. If you have encryption or things like that, it's all been sort of disabled, if you will. Not that you can't still protect it with your PIN, but the encryption is all opened up, so you can actually get into the device when you first when it's powered on without providing a password. You may notice that as you restart your device, it says, "Oh, I can't log in with a PIN right now. You have to first unlock with maybe a password or something like that." And that's because it would be encrypted at that point. So one of the first things that they do is they hook these mobile devices up to power. So this kit would have a power adapter for like literally every digital device that you could possibly come across. And they want to make sure that the device stays powered on so that they can attempt to break into it. And then they'll get into it, and then they'll start recovering the memory off of it. And they will then return to this piece of software to analyze it and take a look at what's going on. Similarly, if you are looking at laptops or desktops, so for example, if you use your laptop as part of the commission of a crime, they would need to look at the hard drive contents for that. And so these forensic imagers, they're specially built for doing this type of work, where they go and they get full copies of hard drives, so that all the analysis work that's done in this software is done on a copy of the drive, not the original drive. And that becomes really important as part of the investigation process, because you need to have certain guarantees, like the things that I'm doing, the things I'm looking at, the ways I'm trying to recover data, that those things aren't tampering with the evidence at all, right? And these forensic imagers help give those types of guarantees, because they, for example, don't support writing any data to drive. So they used to actually physically cut the line that would do the writes. There would literally be a severed line, so that there were no possibilities that data could have been written into the drive. And that's, that's important, because you, even as a person who's looking to mount a defense, would want to be able to say, that drive has not been tampered with, right? That the evidence that, even exonerates me, that has never been touched or messed with. So these types of tools are used for that sort of thing. So these are two jobs that are obviously important, but really all of the jobs are really, really important. As you start to look at the broader picture of what's happening today, think about the last AWS outage that you saw. I mean, it's almost like an AWS outage is now synonymous with the internet going out, right? Because you have so many different companies, so many different people that are relying on those services, that if it does go out, it's a major event, right? So it's important for them to take the cybersecurity seriously. Look at what happened with the Colonial Pipeline, right? So the attackers broke into the billing system, and they could not push oil through the pipeline because they had no guarantees they were going to wind up getting paid. So they shut the pipeline down. Well, the entire southeastern seaboard here almost, lost the ability to even drive in their car. I mean, there was, no gas going out for quite a while. Look at the Russia-Ukraine war that's happening right now. The Ukrainians seem to be mounting a fairly sophisticated cyber attack against Russia. For example, there's reports that the Ukrainians look to see what frequencies the encrypted communications were happening on for the Russian radios, and they just jammed those signals. And so, their encrypted, radios, they're useless now because you can't get your signal out when you can't communicate. And so then you saw reports that the Russians were stealing Ukrainian cell phones so that they could make calls. Well, those are unsecured lines. Now the Ukrainian government can listen in and see what's, what communications are happening. And as they tried to get messages out back to Russia, they just disabled the area code that dials out there and, severed those connections. Likewise, there's been reports that the Russians have attacked Ukrainian government websites in an effort to bring them down. The idea being that, you bring down the government website, then, the people believe that their government too is no longer functioning or has fallen. And you've seen a lot of large internet providers try to shield those websites from those types of attacks. You look at just 2 days ago, our US president said that we need to prepare for cyber attacks as a result of the sanctions, the economic sanctions that we've been placing on different countries like Russia. So, this is very much an important career path that is laid out before us today, probably never more than it has been in history. So it is worthwhile to, I guess, take a look at it. I also wanted to just sort of end by saying I talked a lot about technical stuff, the different tools that people would use to emulate human input devices and the different forensic analysis tools that people might use. But really, not all of these tools are technical, and not all the jobs are technical. So there are policy analysts, there are people who audit, there are people who do all sorts of different things that don't necessarily involve getting into the very deep technical nature of the way things are. So if it's a field that interests you, it doesn't have to be only a technology one. All right, so I think I am ending 2 minutes early, which allows me the 5 minutes that I believe y'all wanted for questions. So I will, if you want, take some questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Besmer. That was very fascinating.